everyone, and welcome to the Jeff Bullis Show. Today I have with me Sean Castrina. Now, Sean is dialing in on Zoom, as we do it here, from Charlottesville, Virginia. And of course, we're calling from Sydney, Australia. Love the tech, but let's a little bit more about Sean. Sean is the founder of the Weekend MBA and host of the 10-Minute Entrepreneur podcast, which is a top 10 entrepreneurship podcast, as well as author of 4 best-selling books. Obviously, he doesn't take much time off, so to get all that done. He's also started 15 companies, plus he's lost count. He's been featured in Forbes, Inc., Money Magazine as a verified Instagram account with over 300,000 followers. Sean is a recovering white-collar drug addict, and we'll find out more what that actually means. We love to have addicts on the show, Sean, so it's great to have you here.
Good.
And we'll be sharing why every person should be thinking like an entrepreneur. I love that. So, Sean, welcome to the show.
Well, great. It's great to be on the podcast.
So, Sean, we both have a common interest in the skill, art, and science of being an entrepreneur. And so what led you to be a recovering white-collar addict, and and also I'm sure connected with that is what got you to fall in love with being an entrepreneur?
Great. Let me take you through the story. First, I'll tell you how I became an entrepreneur, and then I'll tell you the white collar thing, because they're two great stories. But I was a Division I college wrestler, went to grad school, got my dream job coming out of college. I actually offered to work for free because I didn't want to start at the bottom, and took $500 in my car, and I did an internship for free, and they ended up hiring me, and I did really well, thought I'd be there forever. Change in leadership, and I was let go pretty much overnight. And I knew then that, okay, wait, you could be a really good employee and be let go at any time. And I never forget when they let you go. It's just kind of like, they said it's so calm. We're just moving in a different direction. It's like a really polite way of giving you the middle finger.
Yeah.
Really, it was just a nice way of just giving you the finger.
Yeah.
And I just had a child, and I'm like, this is insanity. So I knew then that I would never work for somebody long term. I'll work until I get my feet up under me. But I'm definitely going to do my own thing. And I've been doing my own thing for, the better part of the last 25 years. And, I've started more than 20 companies, currently run more than 10 as we speak. So I'm addicted to entrepreneurship because it allows you to dictate your life. You have so much for good or bad,
Exactly.
good or bad.
Yep.
What I tell people, it's like the Titanic. The one thing about being an entrepreneur is I at least can, if I see, the iceberg, I can turn the wheel.
Yeah.
Where if you're an employee, you can't sometimes, you're not in a leadership position to do that. You look at Circuit City and Sears and JCPenney and all these companies and Blockbuster, none of those employees could fix that.
No.
They weren't in a position of leadership to alter that. So that's why I'm addicted to entrepreneurship. Now, the drugs, that was, as I said, I was a Division I college wrestler, and I started having massive back pain like in 2012. And the funny thing about it is that I don't drank one time as a middle schooler, didn't like the taste of it, and never smoked, never did drugs. So no drugs, no alcohol, neither. I mean, definitely a healthy guy. But I had a doctor start putting me on oxycodone. And at one point I was up to I was taking 20 a day. So I was getting 600 prescribed per. I used to get prescribed so many, over 600 a month.
Wow.
That I would go to CVS pharmacy and they'd be like, well, Sean, you got to give us like 2 days notice. and then I would have to keep them in my safe. Right. At my house, because my wife and everybody are like, well, if anybody ever knows you have that many oxys because of the street value, you're going to get robbed. So you need to keep them in there. And then he said, just to make it even easier for you, because I was very well known. I own a business. I had TV commercials. Maybe he thought he was trying to help me, which was insanity. He said, I'll give you 75 milligrams of fentanyl in a patch, and we'll try that every 48 hours. Needless to say, I lost about 45 pounds and probably would have died. Thankfully, he got arrested about 6 years into this concept, 7 years in. So I was on this drugs for 7 years.
Right.
All those oxys, the fentanyl patches, everything. And then he gets arrested. And I thought it'd be like really easy. Like I just go to another pain doctor and get re-prescribed. So I'll never forget. I go to like National Pain Center and I'm like, and they knew who I was. Hey, Sean, it's great to have, blah, blah, blah. But by the way, there's not anybody in the United States of America that is going to prescribe you. This was during the 2018 election, like when, fentanyl was like, at the top of discussion. And he's like, there is no one in the United States of America that is going to refill your prescriptions. Never forget him saying that. Never. Will not happen. And so my family physician, as kind of a favor for being my doctor for 20 years, gives me a box of fentanyl patches. He prescribes me one last box. Mm-hmm. Okay. Which is, that would maybe take me 10 days every 48 hours because a box of 5 of them. And I never forget, I picked those up on a Friday and I called my buddies from college and that weekend we rented a beach house and I went into detox with no prescription, no nothing. I just said, man, I'm a Division I wrestler. I've sucked weight before. I can do this. Well, obviously it was a lot harder than I thought, but I did it. And so 7 days later, I remember kept Googling, like, when do you know you've and they're like, if you can get to day 5. And so, so I kicked it and I came back and gave the pack of 5 back to my doctor. And the guy, the head of the National Pain Center at the time, said to me, the doctor, he says, it's a prisoner of war mentality. He said, I've never in more than 20 years ever had anybody quit either of those. Wow. without help. Because he told me, because, you're probably going to need to go into some type of rehab. And that just did not fit my schedule. I'm like, well, how am I going to find time to do this? So to me, the way to do it was just to kind of go away and do it myself. And I did it. And it's funny, my doctor, I still have the fentanyl, but that thing of 5, you say, it's yours, it's your prescription. And it sits in my safe. And it just kind of reminds me of, what you can do if you genuinely put your mind to it. And entrepreneurship is like that. Yeah. You got to have a prisoner of war mentality.
Yeah. So you decided early on to be the captain of the ship rather than a passenger.
Absolutely. If I'm going to wreck this thing, I want to know I'm holding the wheel.
So what was your first venture?
Yeah. So my first one is when I obviously was let go, a good communicator. I was hired to sell life insurance, which you can see that, anybody can, if you can sell life insurance is a way to go. And I remember we had staff meetings every Monday, sales meetings, and they were like never ending, like 2-3 hours of rah, 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 rah. And it's the first time I'd ever been around where people had really nice cars. In insurance, they're making money because everybody had a Mercedes. And I'm looking out the window, looking at this whole parking lot of really nice cars. And it hits me, and this is kind of funny. I was like thinking to myself, well, what if I could get a company that came here during our meeting and washed these cars, like detailed them, but right in the parking lot. Now that sounds like now you're like laughing at, but almost 30 years ago, nobody was doing that. So I got a big Ford 250 van, put a big water tank in the back. And then I hired an auto detailing guy. And this was the formula that I've been using for 25 years of my success. I did it with that company. I was like, all right, I will make the phone ring. All right. I will attract customers. For whatever reason, that's always been something that has come really easy. So that was it. And then I set up an automated phone. So you called in, I never forget, the number was 1-888-933-3824. Toll free, We Detail was the phone number. And they'd call in, and the lady who answered the phone would basically say, is it a car or a truck? Do you want the outside or the inside or both? So it was a really simple sales script. He'd go out and do them. And every Friday, he and I would settle up 50-50 split. Mm-hmm. And I made $30,000. And this is in, like 1995, doing nothing. Like somebody answered the phone, this person cleaned the cars. Fridays we settled up, and I knew then that the aha moment hit me. Right. I'm like, okay, wait, you don't have to do the work. You don't have to know anything about the industry necessarily. You just need to have something that people want, and you have to be able to attract customers and fulfill what it is you sell. And I've always said, business is only 3 things. Everybody makes it complicated. Think about this for a second. You only do 3 things in business. Every single business does only 3 things. They attract customers, marketing. They sell customers, and then you fulfill whatever it is you sold. and or provide the warranty with it, but it's fulfillment. That's it. That's the whole thing. And I realized with the detailing, it was very simple. I made 30 grand. I've rinsed and repeated that formula for millions and millions of dollars. And, you know, I mean, I own a construction company. I have a plastic toolbox upstairs that I got when I got married. I own a roofing siding company. I own a kitchen remodeling company, a bath remodeling company. And we do like $60,000 bathrooms. You know, I have a handyman company, a painting company, masonry, and I've used that exact same formula. I own a digital marketing company, basically the same formula. And I've rinsed and repeated my whole adult career.
So the one thing I think that impresses me a lot beyond the simplicity, which is great, and that's what we try and do on the show, is get to the essence of what it means. And you said three things. Okay, find a problem, deliver it, generate leads. So that's really it. But what also sounds great is that you have obviously learned the art of delegation.
I joke. Don't take this wrong. I would delegate a bowel movement if somebody would come up behind me. If somebody would clean my hind end adequately, I would delegate a bowel movement so I could do something at the same time.
And that's the thing about a lot of service industry, that, like, you know, these coaches and everything, they've got to show up all the time. They're trading time for money, whereas you've got leverage.
My typical week, and again, I live real, you know, I've got all the toys and all that. And I mowed my grass one time in my adult life. In my adult life, I've mowed grass once. I have shoveled snow maybe once as a joke, so my wife would just have a heart attack with me doing it. But no, I delegate everything. I know what I do really well. What I do extremely well is I see opportunities. I see needs that need to be met. I'm really good at recruiting a team, and I'm very good at partnering. I'm very good at, like, not only hiring people, but bringing in that top tier guy to partner with me. I've partnered in every one of my companies. Every company I have partners. So that's my formula. And I stick with that formula. I don't try to veer from it. And I know, you know, I know what I'm really good at. I'm good at getting things off the ground. I'm good at creating that conveyor belt, that three things I talked about. I'm really good at getting marketing in place, really good closing, you know, getting customers, selling them, and fulfillment. I'm obsessive about the fulfillment part. And that's all entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is, it's you got to find a recipe that works for you. It's finding a recipe.
Yep.
And once you find it, then, you know, you can, to some degree, print money. Now, to what the amount, you know, that's up to the industry you're in and how big the business is and all that. But it's simple. You know, entrepreneurship it doesn't have to be rocket science.
Yeah. Yeah. I love the way you've distilled it. Now, tell us a little bit about how you recruit top people, how you identify them, and what's the process for that.
Yeah, I'm a talent scout. What I'm saying is I look for talent. I'm like a homing device. I don't care if I go out to dinner somewhere and somebody introduces me to somebody. Let's say somebody comes to my house and they sell me, you know, I'm getting my gutters cleaned or something my company doesn't do. When I meet someone talented, I get their name and phone number and I'm having lunch with them. And even if it's just to kind of feel them out, to kind of see where they may fit in the equation at a later date. Mm-hmm. Like in my desk at my office, I've got cards of people that like are my next idea. This is the person I want to partner with. And I tell people that. We'll go to lunch and I go, listen, I'm an entrepreneur. Every year I typically have something I'm going to launch. And you're just somebody that I may reach out to, and they'll go, I'd love for you to do that. And I've been using that formula, you know, over and over. I give it like a simple example of how I do it to a T. This will be the simplest way to how I did. All right. Gig Strategic. I'm making all this so that you can follow it. Gig Strategic. If you Google it, gigstrategic.com, you're going to see James. All right. And he runs my company. He's worked with Fortune 100 companies. I do not know how to do digital marketing, and my competitors were doing a lot of digital marketing. I do like your Super Bowl ads. I did the US Open golf. I use a lot of traditional media, so I didn't understand digital marketing. Everybody wanted my account because I spend big money on advertising. So the TV stations, everybody was pitching me. It's about 4 years ago. The radio station comes in, meeting in my conference room, and everybody's trying to sell me. The quietest guy in the room was that guy, James. But I knew he was the smartest guy in the room. And they had all his sales managers and all that. And I kept talking to James in the meeting going, all right, James, how does this work? And if how does, like Facebook ads and all, I mean, I just wanted to understand it. He made it very, very simple for me. The meeting was over. Everybody gave me their business cards. I threw everybody's business cards away, but James's. I called James the next day. I said, James, listen, I'm going to hire you guys to handle my digital marketing, but you're going to do it. I will hire if you do it. And I said, every month, I want you to come to my office and tell me in under 15 minutes what I spent my money on, whether it's working or not working. Show me whether it's working or not working, or tell me how you're going to pivot. Very simple. I just want to do every 15 minutes. And I said, and oh, by the way, you're either going to come work for me or you and I are going to start a company together. I asked him about that later. He said, you have one of them personalities where you're either the most arrogant SOB or the most confident. He goes, but I believed it. He goes, you just give off that air like you wouldn't have said it if you didn't mean it. So needless to say, he took over my account, did an incredible job. That was like in November when we started. May of that year, I asked him, have you ever been to Disney World? He's got young kids. He goes, no, we've never been to Disney World, but my wife and I have talked about it. I go, great. I want to pay for you and your family to go to Disney World. He goes, well, why would you do that? I said, I told you when we talked originally that you were either going to come work for me or be one of my partners. And this is my down payment. Mm-hmm. So I paid for his trip to Disney World, and it was thousands and thousands of dollars. 2 years later, he and I started Gig Strategic. Needless to say, I've gotten that Disney World vacation back and a whole lot of zeros. But I'm always looking for talent. And I told him that about a year in, I said, listen, you need to leverage yourself for a big raise. I said, you are their digital marketing company. His wife was a stay-at-home mom. So I'm like, don't necessarily run the entrepreneurship route. Try to get just a massive raise and hope maybe they'll give it to you. They didn't. That was their mistake. I remember it was like right before Christmas, they said, no, we're not going to give it to you. I said, great. January 1st, we're launching this company. And I said, I'll guarantee what you make at the radio. They told me what the amount was. I'll guarantee it for a year. I only had to bankroll 1 month of expenses. We launched it so fast. I brought all my poker buddies that own companies. I mean, we sold them all. It's a 7-figure company. And that's just how I do it. I'm like a homing device. I've done that. James is one of, I can literally go one story after another. All my partners in my company is a similar story like that. Like I meet somebody on my son's soccer team, a dad who just got laid off, was an engineer. Well, that engineer now runs my roofing, siding, and solar division.
Yeah.
It's just every story like that.
So you identify someone who's got the expertise in an industry you want to target. And then you add value.
That's 100%. I find the expert.
Yep.
And I provide the money the money and the infrastructure. I'm really good at creating systems, but I find extraordinarily talented people that aren't being utilized.
That raises the other question just raised then. How important are systems and processes to an entrepreneur?
I mean, to me, you can't sell a company without systems. You can't scale a company without systems. You can't fulfill without systems because you don't know what you did. You don't know what I always tell my partners when we have a problem and a customer's upset, I said, I can live with one customer being upset, but I don't want it to be repeated.
Yep.
I don't like systemic problems. So what do we need to put in place so that it never happens again? It's like just today I had something like that. I sent a picture to one of my guys and I said, see this little thing here? I don't want this to ever happen again. Put this down as a Seanism. This little thing never can happen again. And they, so you create systems so that good things get repeated and bad things get eliminated. There you go. Systems. Good things get repeated. Bad things get eliminated. That's why you have systems.
Awesome. I love that. The thing is, I think entrepreneurs have to fall in love with systems because it's, like you said, the only way to scale, and it's the only way you can sell a business, because someone's going to walk in and they're going, how do you do all this? How can we take over without actually having to employ you for 4 years, as in golden handcuffs? You're going, well, I'm not going to do that.
And how do you do something else? I'm an entrepreneur addict. Yeah. So if I'm completely trapped by this one company, I couldn't have done all the other businesses that I'm doing. but I can do it because I'm fanatical about systems. I could show you my phone that I get an email and I get an email every single morning from my CPO that shows every one of my companies, every account. If anything doesn't look correct, 4:30 every day, I get another massive spreadsheet of all my companies, every call, every conversion, everything that came in at the bottom, anything that looks, I could be anywhere in the world and run my companies on what I get every day. I have a dashboard in place.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to mention. You've actually made sure that you have a dashboard that allows you to control the steering and the engine of the ship.
If I can see a trend and I'll tell my partners, I go, something's getting ready to happen. They, well, how can you tell? I said, I know what trends look like. I know what negative trends look like, and I know what positive trends look like. And we're trending in the wrong way right here. And I can see that because of the dashboard.
Yep. That's awesome. So one question that I wanted to ask you was, which you've raised before in the prep for this, why should small businesses think like a Fortune 500 company?
Because you got to think big. This idea that you start small, you stay small. I mean, you don't have to start small if you think about it. You can start a few, you can start a few, levels up on the ladder. You can start quick and you can, feed that, once you start converting customers, feed that fire quick. I just think that, why not try to build your company? Not every company can be a Fortune 500 company, but there's certain things that Fortune 500 companies do. This is what they do. Number one is they have systems. Number two is they try to add divisions, locations, that you know what I mean? So they try to scale. All right. Next, they try to be able to have enough value so that they can be sold and or sell stock in them. Yep. Well, if every small business did those few things, they'd be a far better company. If they had systems, if they were scalable, and if they built the company from day one with the value so that it could be sold, maybe you can take some chips out off the table, but you got to think like a Fortune 500 company.
Yeah, that's really, really cool. And a lot of small businesses don't think that way. I think one of the biggest weaknesses I find with small business, especially services, is they just trade time for money. They don't think about leverage.
If you're the technician and you own the company, shame on you. Yeah. That just doesn't make any sense. If anything, you should know what a good technician looks like when you're hiring them.
Exactly.
Okay, that's your advantage. When you're hiring them, you should be really good at creating systems and understanding what a customer would want in that industry. But you should not be doing the actual part of that business. You should not be doing it. Yeah. I mean, it's the E-Myth, shared that, the idea that you need to work on your business, not in your business.
Yeah, exactly. And that's really, really important. I think that entrepreneurs, whether it's a side hustle or whatever they're going to do, is they've got to think that way. One final question. You talked about before the Bermuda Triangle of startups, which is why startups fail. Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, obviously there's a Bermuda Triangle and planes that get, that fly into this space tend to disappear. Boats tend to disappear. Well, there's three, corners of a triangle. And I think in entrepreneurship is the same thing. The first one is the entrepreneur is so fascinated, so excited about their idea that they never beta test it. And they don't put it up for any criticism. I'm like, just take your idea, go to a restaurant one night and just stop by every table and just say, listen, I hate to interrupt for just a minute, but I'm getting ready to launch a business and I'll pay for your dessert. Here's $20 towards your meal. But tell me, what do you think about this idea? And work your way through the entire restaurant. Number one, it'd be a great exercise in just confidence and communicating. But I'm telling you, everybody will give you an answer. I think it's a great idea. I think it sucks. Go to the next table. You got to do something. You got to get some validation from somebody other than you that this idea, people want it. And we tend to get, just because you're excited about something doesn't mean it's a good idea. It may be a good idea in one part of the country, but not a good idea in your part of the country. So that's the first thing, is that you got to beta test your idea. The second thing is, what is this fascination with hiring friends and family? Hey, I love my family and I love hanging out with my buddies. I don't want any of them to work for me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I don't, because they're good at certain areas, but I'm a talent scout. You can be my friend. It doesn't mean that you're good enough to work for me in the industry that I have companies in. there just may not be an alignment there. And so I find that, so many entrepreneurs do that. It sounds great when you're in college and you're under the age of, or you're under the age of 25. You and your buddy go start a business. I love it. If you're under 25, excuse everything I'm saying. But for the rest of us adults, hire talented people and try to stay out of the family and friends, zone of it. So that I'm a fanatic, I'm a, fanatic about that. And then my Bermuda Triangle is that I know there was a third one in there, and I was like, I know exactly what it is. I got my idea. I got my friends. Oh, here it is. Yeah, I knew it. You can't run a successful business if you're a schmuck. They don't really say it that way, but you, the founder of the company, you don't have the goods. You don't. You're not a leader. You're not a leader. You can't sell anything. When you're launching a company, typically you're doing a lot of the selling for the first 100,000, which is the launch stage. Some people, and it's okay. You're not wired for this. You do not, like my wife could never start a business. My daughter's a school teacher. She could never start a business. Hey, that's okay. My wife's a nurse. My daughter's a school teacher. That's okay. But it's not for everybody. And I think it's kind of so cool to say you're an entrepreneur, right? It's kind of really cool now. Elon Musk really made it cool. It's cool. Jack Dorsey, it's cool, but it's not for everybody. So I think you have to, again, look at your idea and beta test it. Don't just let it float around in your head and your buddies all tell you it's good. Number 2 is hire, especially when you're launching a business. Your first hire is so important. And I have a hard time believing the best person you can hire is your friend or your family. I've never had that. Not one time was anybody in my family or my friends the right hire for that industry. And third, if you can't lead anybody, if nobody likes you, okay, and you generally turn people off. Nobody's going to want to come work for you. I mean, we're starting a company. People come work for you because there's a little bit of a likability there. They believe in your vision, kind of excited about it. I mean, you got to have a little something. If you have nothing that I'm talking about, you have no self-discipline, you have no, tenaciousness, you're not competitive, you don't have that, stick with it. Some people just have tremendous resilience. I mean, if half the things I just said you don't have, I don't know if you're going to make it.
Yeah, exactly. So one last question. Business success or failure is in the planning. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I mean, I wrote the world's greatest business plan. So I think everything I do has a plan. I always say, listen, for every dream I have, for every big goal I have, there's a plan there. And I think that what we try to do is, the law of attraction, all this other stuff. I'm sorry, I can't think about something and it happens. Now, if I think about something a lot and I'm excited about something and I have a parallel plan, mm-hmm. and a strategy, and I take action on it every day, which is within my plan, I am shocked at some of the stuff I've achieved. But you got to have a plan, and specifically a business. I mean, to me, you'll plan out your vacation, you'll plan out a wedding, but you don't plan out your business. Like, who's your target customer? We're gonna really simple. I'm gonna do like a super simple business plan there. Who is your target customer? That's the person most likely to buy what it is you're selling. Who is your competition? What is going to be different between you and your competition? Okay, there you go. How are you going to attract this target customer? What is going to be your pricing? If your competition's here, what's going to be your pricing? Who do you have to hire to get this business off the ground? In other words, who's going to open the doors? Who's going to, provide the manufacturing or, wait the table, whatever it is, whoever you need to put this team on the field so that it operates day one. Who is it? What's your operation costs? How much money do you got in the bank, assuming no money comes in right away? Because that's probably what's going to happen. So to me, I mean, I could just do it. I'm doing a simple to-do list, but these are normal questions. And the fact that people don't think they need to do it, to me, it's hubris. It's just extreme arrogance. And very, to me, it's just not very smart. I mean, you don't have to do a massive business plan, but two full legal pages of questions would probably serve you well.
So you said you wrote the world's best business plan. So where can we find that?
Yes, if you, and actually you can get it free. If you go to World's Greatest Business Plan, I think it's /free book. I'm 99% sure you can get it that way. And if you go to SeanCastrina.com, you get my 8 Unbreakable Rules for Business Startup Success. It's on there too. So if you go there, I'm giving away a book all the time. So there's always a free book on my site. And I'm 99.9% sure if you go to World's Greatest Business Plan /free book, you can get it there.
All right, cool. We'll include that in the show notes.
There you go.
So just before we finish up here, Sean, it's been awesome. I love your distillation of complexity into simplicity. It's really, really cool. You've really, like, in 30 minutes, you've covered about 3 hours, most people do, which is great. So any top tips before we finish up and let you go and start another business?
Yeah, I mean, I just think entrepreneurship is the greatest thing in the world. It really is. Next to faith, I think entrepreneurship does more good for the world than any other thing. It does. Now, it's every building at a university that's big, it's named after a business owner who donated the money. Okay, the wings of hospitals, they're named after wealthy people.
Yep.
So the idea that, entrepreneurship is just extraordinary, but let me make it so simple for you. This is all you have to do. If you do this, I'm going to make it, the concept so simple. Try to help someone meet a need, just find out what somebody else needs and meet that need. If you do that, you have just begun a business. All entrepreneurship is seeing a need and fulfilling it.
Yep.
And if you do that, you'll win and they'll win. And normally, if you price it right, everything just, it all works out for you. But I've done that my whole life. I just look around for, things that people need, problems that people have. And if I help people with their need, their want, their problem, typically 90% of every business is one of those 3 things. You either fulfill a need, satisfy a want, like a Rolex watch over a Timex. You do that, and you solve a problem. Want, need, problem. If you do those 3 things, you're helping somebody. The world gets better and you make money off of it. Yep. It's very simple. So just be highly alert to just needs, wants, and problems.
Yeah. It's awesome. So in other words, be very aware and go look for problems to solve, which sounds like you do every time you launch a business.
Yeah, and they fall in my lap. I mean, none of my businesses are sexy, but every business was something that I personally saw that, you know what I mean? It just kind of was like laying in my lap, looking out a window with the detailing company. I needed a home office and I couldn't get anybody to turn my dining room into an office. So I started a home improvement company, and that ends up being a multi-million-dollar thing. I needed a digital marketing company because all my competitors were doing it. So I started Gig Strategic. The Weekend MBA, my, big time event. I did that because every event I would go to was all hype. It was all hype and all sales. Yep. I'm like, wait, business. Okay. Is anybody teach a P&L statement? Is anybody teach how to hire and fire staff? Is anybody teach how you franchise, or when you should franchise, or if you should franchise, and licensing agreement? So every one of my businesses came from something that I saw as a need.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you actually are the law of attraction, because you're asking the right questions in your head and you look for opportunities and attract opportunities through that. So thanks, Sean, for your insights. It's been fantastic. I've learned a lot, and this is what I love about having these conversations with some of the smartest people in the world, such as yourself. That adds value to our audience. So thank you very much for sharing your wisdom and insights and experience. It's been an absolute joy.
Great, Jeff. Thank you for having me on the podcast.